Second trial.
Take two. Welcome to our first ever Move the Date live stream.
This is very exciting. And here's your host, Laurel Hanscom, our Director of Programs at Global Footprint Network.
And I am joined for the moment for this live stream with our co-founder and CEO of Global Footprint Network, Matas Fagernackle. Thank you so much for coming.
Welcome, everybody.
So as you know, today, August 1st, is Earth Overshoot Day. Today is the day humanity's demand on nature exceeds what the Earth can renew in the entire year. This is the earliest Earth Overshoot Day ever. But here at Global Footprint Network, we refuse gloom and doom, and we invite everyone in the world, decision makers in government, finance, corporations, NGOs, and everyone else, each and every member of the public and the whole world, to join the movement to reverse the trend and at last move the date back on the calendar.
Let's move the date.
So the goal is clear. It's about everyone on Earth thriving within the ecological budget of our one planet.
And this movement is growing as we speak. We have a great dazzling sample of world leaders here lined up from around the globe who are working ceaselessly towards creating a sustainable world.
Thanks, I think you've done enough for now.
I'm good to go. Let's move it.
So our first guest, thank you, Matas, it's a pleasure. We'll have you back a little bit later. Our first guest is a personal hero of mine. Christiana Figueres is best known around the world as the former executive secretary of the UNFCCC from 2010 to 2016, and essentially the architect of the Paris Climate Agreement. She's active now as the convener of Mission 2020, a global initiative that seeks to ensure the world bends the curve on greenhouse gas emissions by 2020 and protect the most vulnerable from the worst impacts of climate change, usher in an era of sustainability. She graciously agreed to be on the show, although unfortunately she's on a plane right now. However, I had a chance to speak with her earlier, and here's what she had to say. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is a huge pleasure. I have a few questions for you, but first, could you tell us a little bit about what you're working on right now?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. And yes, what am I working on now? Well, together with many other people, because I never do anything on my own, I always do it with big teams of people. We're now working on basically the implementation of the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement was a huge milestone for those of us working on climate change, but you will understand that if the Paris Agreement remains a wonderful piece of paper that everybody agreed to and nothing else, then it has no value. So we are now working on making sure that the milestones that are set in the Paris Agreement actually will be met by the real economy.
That's so needed and amazing work. So Ms. Figueres, what does Earth Overshoot Day mean to you in your work that you're doing now?
Well, interestingly enough, if you think systemically, you can certainly understand that Earth Overshoot Day is meant to be an annual measurement of how much we extract from nature versus how much nature can actually replenish. And this year on August 1st, we hit that deadline in which we will have extracted already as much or more than the Earth can replenish, and the rest of the year is already into the red. But when you think about it, not just annually, but actually as the history of mankind, we're in the same situation. We are just 2 minutes from reaching the point where we will have put up in the atmosphere so many tons of carbon dioxide that it is going to be exceedingly difficult to stabilize the climate over the next few decades. So just like we have Earth Overshoot Day per year, we also have Earth Overshoot Day for the evolution of mankind. And that milestone is 2020. So if we're not able to bend the curve of greenhouse gas emissions by 2020, we will have substantially overshot how much we can put into the atmosphere versus how much we can take out of the atmosphere for a safe climate that is going to protect, in particular, the most vulnerable populations of the world.
I feel like with all of that, there are very few, you were one of the few world leaders who is saying that with the same amount of urgency. And how do you maintain your optimism in face of all of these obstacles that I think is certainly in the United States, but around the world, maybe coming up against seeing that progress?
Well, I don't think that optimism is the result of anything. I think it is the start of everything. And I think my sense of optimism is not irresponsible, about naive optimism of not understanding all of the setbacks that we have, the challenges. It is a decision that I have taken. It is a decision that says that I do not engage, and in fact, most people do not engage successfully with any challenge unless we engage with optimism, unless we know that we can be able to address the challenges that are set before us every day, every week, every month, every year. So it's a decision. My optimism is not because we're doing really well. My optimism is precisely because we have to address this. So it is, I have decided to be optimistic because I don't know how many challenges you know, but I don't know of any challenges that humankind has ever been successful at achieving that started with pessimism. Everything that we have done and have been successful at, we started with optimism, and the same can be argued for climate change.
So then from your vantage point, what do you see as an exciting initiative to move the date?
Well, there are so many, actually. There are just countless examples of the dissemination of renewable energy across the world, but in particular, I'm very excited about the dissemination of renewable energy in developing countries, not only because I come from a developing country, but because we know that that is the region in which there's going to be explosive growth and demand of energy just to be able to provide economic fundament and basis to growing population that is both growing but also beginning to come up out of poverty into middle classes, and that is what is feeding the demand of energy. So I'm very, very excited about all of the different examples and renewable energy investments that are being made in country after country, and the fact that in particular solar is now competitive in its cost even against coal, even against gas. It is just really a completely different scenario that we have now in 2018 than where we were, let's say, in 2010. In the past 8 years, the price of solar has come down 80-90%, and that is why we're able to disseminate renewables across the world. So I'm very excited about that. I'm also very excited about the electrification of transportation, which is much newer than the dissemination of renewable energy, and the fact that we already know that by 2040, most, if not all, of the new vehicles that are going to go into the market will be electric is just incredibly exciting. Many of those, of course, will also be shared. And so I'm very excited about the combination of clean energy, electrification of transportation, and the shared economy. And those three mega trends are really completely revolutionizing what we think of as transportation. Is just going to be completely transformed. And finally, I'm very excited to invite everyone here to the opening of the Museum to the Internal Combustion Engine. I'm not exactly sure when we're going to build this museum and when we're going to inaugurate it, but it is going to be soon.
I love that. I will be first in line. So what is a primary issue or challenge that you would like to see progress with 1 year from now?
I think where it's really at right now, where it really is going to make a difference is in finance, because in technologies, we have the technologies available. We also have, in most developing countries, we have the policies in place. Now it's about greening finance and getting the finance sector, the banking sector, the investment sector to understand that there is now, today, more risk in investing in fossil fuels, certainly in coal, than there is in investing in renewables, that there is more risk in investing in internal combustion engine based technology than in green energy technology. So I think the real huge wave that is going to come now after the renewables and after electric transportation is now finance. And that is something that I'm very excited about.
Isn't she extraordinary? I hope it wasn't too obvious that I was kind of fangirling during the entire interview. But she's really amazing and is a gift, the work that she's doing. Moving to our next guest. China is the country with the largest ecological footprint on Earth, but it's also working hard on remediating that challenge. Our data show that China's ecological footprint actually declined slightly from 2013 to 2014 after a steady climb since 2000. Back then, it was half as large as it is today. China's ecological footprint per person has also decreased between 2013 and 2014, in part coming from a decrease in China's per person carbon footprint. To learn more about what's going on in China, we're heading over to speak with environmentalist and CEO of WWF China, Lo Zhiping.
Hi.
There you are.
Good morning.
Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Oh, we don't see you just yet, so let me make sure we can get your video up.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you great. I just can't see you yet. Can you start your video?
Yeah, we are turning it on now. Is
Great.
it working?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Can you see us now?
Not just yet. But I will say, as we get started, one of the things I wanted to mention is that we're currently working with, collaborating with WWF China on their 2018 Living Planet report. And in fact, we have worked closely with WWF China for over a decade now, which has been a fantastic partnership for us.
Yeah.
There's your video. For some reason, it's working. This is real live television, guys. It's on TV.
Maybe we're changing to another channel. Maybe that works better.
All right. Let's see. Okay. Well, that's great. Well, I think we can just talk off camera until we get your video up. So, so first question I have for you is everything's good? Can we see video okay? Awesome. So my first question is, what does Earth Overshoot Day mean for you and for your organization?
Yeah, China, as you just introduced, is facing unprecedented challenge. We carry 1/5 of the world's population, but in terms of many natural resources, we have less than 1/5 of the world in China. Meanwhile, we are in the last decades also producing a lot of consumer products for the rest of the world. So China is facing a double challenge, and supporting China to accelerate its green transformation is absolutely key. We believe that this is one of the most important country where we need to support governments and companies and consumers to make the right decision so that we can live within one planet boundary.
It's extraordinary.
So since 2013, we work with the Global Footprint Network and other partners in promoting the idea of Earth Overshoot Day and combining with it with a sustainable consumption week. Last year alone, in 2017, there are more than 120 cities, more than 1,000 retailer stores, reaching out to tens of millions of customers in China, informing them about better, more sustainable consumption choices.
That's fantastic. And I think it's so important to recognize the amazing work that you're all doing to collaborate and bring all of these different stakeholders together. So of all of the amazing things you're doing at WWF China, what is one of the most exciting initiatives you have to move the date?
Yeah, since 2015, we've been expanding the Earth Hour Day to a events where we engage companies in as well as communities, people to look at how they can contribute their lifestyle change to sustainable consumption. Last year, we have more than 242 cities in China. Tens of million people join the Earth Hour, showing their support for a planet, for one planet, by not only switching off the lights, but also choosing green transports, public transport and share bikes, bringing their own bags, refuse to use single-use plastic straws, for instance, going to spread the idea with their friends and co-workers about what they can do in the workplace and in the household. We also got a lot of Chinese companies joining in on that day. An average consumer in the urban cities, when she or he turn on the mobile phone, a lot of the applications of daily users will pop up with Earth Hour messages, informing them how they can make a difference on their daily choices.
It's really amazing to think about that kind of work at the scale you have there in China. It's one thing to get mobilization like that in small places, but it gives me chills to think of that many people all working together to make changes and make a difference. So my last question for you then is, if there was something that you had, like your one challenge or major initiative, what would you want to see happen 1 year from now?
Well, I think it's quite clear to every one of us that time is running out. We are already consuming 1.7 planet. How can we turn this around in a timely manner? How we can increase the momentum and accelerate those exciting changes that are already happening around the world in many places in China. This is a major challenge for us. One area of focus we're looking at is how we can help Chinese companies to start and accelerate their single-use plastic phase out. This is one of the most ironical and let's say insane behavior of unsustainable consumption. You know, plastic straw, for instance, that would only be degraded in hundreds of years, which is something that we use only for a few seconds or a few minutes at most. Helping companies and consumers to realize there are daily choices that they can make, simple but important choices that they can make, can contribute to living in one planet together. That's very important.
That was fantastic. I couldn't agree more. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much for being such an amazing champion for the planet and for all of the changes that you're able to help us make. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Move the date.
Yeah. All right. So our next guest is coming to us from France, where Earth Overshoot Day in the last few years has achieved significant recognition in media and government. This success has been achieved in no small part through the work done by our next guest. Pierre Canet is head of climate, energy, and sustainable cities for WWF France. And for the past several years, together with his team there, Pierre has been a very visible and vocal advocate of Earth Overshoot Day. He was also the lead on a joint France Overshoot Day report that we did with them that was published this May. So Pierre is just minutes away from stepping into a TV studio in Paris to discuss Earth Overshoot Day in the morning news show. Pierre, thank you for joining us.
Hello.
You are.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah. So I can see you and hear you. Hello from Paris.
Hello. I don't see you yet.
Yes, I'm waiting for Right to access, to enable the video, which says that the host has disabled it. So if you can on your side.
Okay, no worries. Well,
try.
We can just get started and we'll see what we can do about the video going forward. So,
all right.
You have been, I know you are on your way, you're between, I think, morning news shows, is that correct?
Yes.
That's fantastic. It's amazing that you're able to do that. And it's amazing that you're such a champion for Earth Overshoot Day. With that in mind, what does Earth Overshoot Day mean for you and for the work that you do with WWF France?
Well, the Overshoot Day is critical. It's a milestone that is very useful for WWF to actually speak to the general audience, explain what is going on with the overconsumption and production in relation to the natural resources. And so every year when we mark Overshoot Day, it's a critical time for WWF to explain, push for ambition, trying to change actually the model and sustainable model and make sure that all stakeholders in France are engaged in accelerating action to move the date. And so this is critical for mobility, for energy, for food and agriculture. And especially now in France, we have a new government. It's been a year with President Emmanuel Macron, who actually from the beginning pushed, actually, you can see me now.
Oh,
so actually pushed this agenda since he arrived regarding the Paris Agreement. And so now we need to translate this from the global push and ambition of Emmanuel Macron to the very domestic also ambition. And so in the coming days, we will push the government to pass a new law on mobility because in September, it's going to be a milestone. And it's also a way to include and integrate corporate engagement, making sure that companies and business leaders are involved and the general public, because a lot of things can actually be done at this level. You can actually change lifestyles quite easily, also at citizen level. And this is how WWF is using the Global Overshoot Day.
Which is fantastic because I think it means a whole lot to us here at Global Footprint Network to be able to communicate what can be sometimes complex issues in a way that can be accessible to the general public. And it's fantastic that that has been such a successful way for people to campaign. So sort of building on that, I know it sounds like you're having amazing success with this, but what is one of the initiatives that you're working on or that WWF France is working on that you are excited about to move the date?
Yeah, so I mentioned the Paris Agreement. I think what is critical is you see the global footprint, more than half of the footprint is composed of carbon footprint. So there is a huge responsibility in stopping burning fossil fuels. And so the way we can actually stop that is from also integration of engagement from business leaders, from cities, and what we call as WWF, the science-based targets, making sure we have companies taking engagement to align their ambition with the Paris Agreement, making sure we have ways as well for cities to align their ambition with the carbon budget available. And so this is very important for us to have methodologies and ways to engage every sector, from the building sector to the automobile sector, to align this. And we have 30 companies in France who are engaged in this with finance stakeholders. And we did just release a report for cities to see what the Paris Agreement would mean for them in terms of carbon budget and trajectories of decarbonization.
That's incredible. And as a science-based organization, science-based targets are always music to our ears.
Exactly.
Yeah. So my last question for you before I let you run off to do your TV interviews is if there were, if you could see one change between now and next year, what is a major issue or challenge that you would like to see?
So again, referring to the Paris Agreement, what we see now is actually countries in Paris which committed to actually honor 2 degrees temperature threshold, which is the maximum temperature increase. But their commitments are taking us through the 3 degrees Celsius nonsense future for climate stability. And so 3 degrees is too much, 2 degrees is too much. So what we need is in the coming months, countries to step up with new ambition, new climate ambition, new commitments. And to this end, Emmanuel Macron already announced at the European Parliament that France would push for higher ambition for EU to take a new engagement that is aligned with science, aligned with a 1.5 degrees Celsius. So I'm hoping that we can next year say a lot of countries join this movement to step up their ambition and put new commitments on the table.
That is fantastic. And I wish you the best of luck in all of those collaborations. We're all going to move
Thank you. Thank you, Lorraine. And let's move the date.
Let's move the date.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. So staying in Paris, since we're here already, we are going to move to speak with another dear partner of ours. Just a moment, we can bring on our next guest. So Global Footprint Network has actually an anniversary to celebrate. In a few days, we'll be marking the completed first year of our partnership with Schneider Electric, a global specialist in energy management and automation with operations in more than 100 countries. Schneider Electric is, unfortunately, one of the few companies whose business strategy is aligned with moving humanity out of ecological overshoot. From Schneider, we are joined today by Esther Finidori, Manager of CO2 Strategy. Esther, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It is such a pleasure to have you on, and it's such a pleasure to have Schneider as our sponsor and our partner. So I know that the work that you do at Schneider is on CO2 strategy, but could you tell me a little bit more about what Earth Overshoot Day means to you in your role and for the company?
Well, for Schneider Electric, Earth Overshoot Day is an important milestone during the year because it's a date when we can take a step back and assess our targets against the ecological overshoot equation. So it's a date at which we can challenge ourselves and think, is my business model really one planet compatible? To succeed, we believe we need to focus both on efficient new infrastructure and on retrofitting existing assets. For example, in OECD countries, 50% of buildings that will be in use in 2050 are already built. So half of the work is to design and build new, efficient, flexible assets that are one planet compatible by design. But we shouldn't forget the second half, which is to retrofit existing infrastructure.
That's fantastic. I think it's often that we talk about the actions that need to be taken, and it's about these new technologies and things that are very much in the future. And it's amazing the work that Schneider is doing. It's retrofit, it's existing technology, it's things that we already have access to. So with that in mind, I know there are plenty of initiatives that Schneider is working on, but what's one that really is inspiring to you in terms of moving the date?
Well, what we see and that excites us the most is that we see an increasing share of businesses that think long-term and that understand that they're operating in the world of finite resources. For instance, a recent poll showed that 82% of our customers in Europe consider resource scarcity and sustainability in their decision-making. And for us, of course, this is core to the challenge. More specifically, we see a huge business potential for more circular economy. We can reuse, repair, retrofit existing assets to prolong their lifetime. Digitization here is a game changer in how we manage those assets. It enables remote control, optimization of operations, preventive maintenance, etc. So all in all, we do see circular economy as a driver for business innovation that is good for the planet and good for the business.
Which is key as we move forward. We definitely would like to make sure that that happens in a sustainable, not just for the planet, but for the organizations and economies that thrive on the natural resources that we use. So my last question for you is, and I feel like this one's all about passion. If there is one thing that you would like to see in the next year, what would be the one challenge or issue you would like to see movement on?
Well, at Schneider Electric, we estimate that if Today, 100% of existing buildings, industry, data centers were equipped with active energy efficiency technologies. And if the electricity grid was upgraded with renewable, we could collectively move the date back by 21 days. Technologies to move the date are available. The economics are there as well if you consider both short-term value with immediate savings from resource efficiency and the long-term value of future-proof assets. So 1 year from now, what we want to see is companies fully account for the value of those assets that are one planet compatible and embrace and unlock the potential for retrofits.
That's fantastic. I am so excited that we were working together to move the date. Thank you so much, Esther. Excellent. So we're staying now in Paris for our next very special guest. France's Minister of Ecological Transition, Nicolas Hulot, surprised us last year when he became the first member of government in any country to actively promote and explain Earth Overshoot Day, not just in the French media, but also in a special session at the House of Representatives. He was committed to being on this show, and later he couldn't join us live. I suspect he's in a Paris radio or TV station discussing Earth Overshoot Day right now. However, he sent us a video clip that we're very happy to share with you now. Nicolas.
1er août, aujourd'hui c'est ce que l'on appelle le jour du dépassement. En fait, ça signifie tout simplement qu'à partir de maintenant, nous avons au niveau mondial consommé toutes les ressources que la planète est capable de régénérer en une année. Dit autrement, on vit à crédit à partir de maintenant en exploitant la planète bien au-delà de ce qu'elle est en capacité de nous donner. Le pire, c'est que chaque année, cette date avance un peu plus. Rendez-vous bien compte qu'en 1978, c'était le 9 novembre. En 98, le 3 octobre. Aujourd'hui, le 1er août. Qu'en sera-t-il l'an prochain? En tout cas, le phénomène s'accélère. C'est pas tenable. En 212 jours, nous avons consommé l'ensemble des ressources en carbone, notamment en nourriture, en eau, en fibres, en terre cultivée et en bois de construction que la planète est capable de régénérer en 365 jours. Si toute l'humanité vivait comme nous les Français, il faudrait disposer de 2,9 planètes pour subvenir aux besoins de l'ensemble de l'humanité. Jusqu'à preuve du contraire, on ne dispose que d'une seule planète. Et au niveau mondial, il nous faudrait 1,7 planètes si l'on regarde la consommation et la production de l'ensemble des citoyens du monde. Cette date, ce n'est pas simplement de la théorie, on le voit bien. Aujourd'hui, nous avons basculé dans une nouvelle ère climatique. Regardez simplement depuis l'été, les catastrophes climatiques qui s'enchaînent se développent à un rythme qui nous frappe de stupeur. Inondations, canicules et à nouveau inondations au Japon, feux de forêt en Suède, dans un pays qui jusqu'à présent avait été épargné par ce type de phénomène. Canicule en Europe, aux États-Unis, record absolu vendredi dernier à Lille avec 38,6 degrés de température. Voilà la réalité de notre modèle de développement. Le chaos climatique, l'érosion de la biodiversité. Tout cela risque d'être simplement une sinistre bande-annonce d'un film catastrophe que nous regardons se développer en spectateurs informés. Mais ça n'est pas une fatalité. C'est une forme de résignation. Parce que le pire, c'est que les solutions existent. Mais elles reposent d'abord entre les mains et la volonté de chacune et de chacun d'entre nous. C'est à chacun d'entre nous qu'il revient de protéger ces biens communs que sont le climat, la biodiversité, un air sain et une eau non polluée. On a les moyens. Nous avons l'économie, nous avons les technologies pour répondre aux défis économiques, climatiques et écologiques. Mais la seule chose qui fait défaut, c'est la volonté et l'intelligence collective. C'est aussi l'engagement de chacun. On doit avancer, regarder tous ensemble dans la même direction. On ne peut pas sous-traiter ce sujet-là. Oui, il y a la responsabilité de l'État, mais il y a aussi la volonté individuelle. Les énergies renouvelables sont déjà les premières énergies installées sur la planète. L'agriculture biologique et l'agroécologie sont en train de faire la démonstration qu'elles peuvent nourrir le monde tout en protégeant la biodiversité et sans aggraver les dérèglements climatiques. Les produits chimiques appartiennent, comme les énergies fossiles, comme le plastique, au XXe siècle. En bref, on sait faire autrement. Cette mobilisation, elle n'est possible que si toutes les entreprises, si tous les territoires, si tous les citoyens jouent le jeu. Où que vous soyez, qui que vous soyez. Vous avez entre les mains des solutions et nous sommes là pour les accompagner. La mobilisation, elle doit non seulement se poursuivre, mais elle doit s'amplifier. Et nous avons besoin, j'ai besoin, la planète, nos enfants ont besoin de cette mobilisation autour de la démarche #MoveTheDebt. C'est le moment de dire stop et de prendre les choses en main. Ensemble, faisons reculer la date.
Amazing. Thank you so, so much. So from one culinary powerhouse to another, we're leaving France to head over to Japan. Our next guest is Tobias Adiyoshi, Conservation Director at WWF Japan. He is also head of WWF Japan's Marine Program and the coordinator for the Yellow Sea Ecoregion Planning Program, committed to protecting the biodiversity and fishery resources of China's Yellow Sea. Tobai, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me today on this very special day.
It's special. I don't know if it's exciting, but we're very glad that you're participating and helping us spread the word. So we've worked here at Global Footprint Network. We've worked with WWF Japan for a long, long time, and it has been an extraordinary partnership. So
right.
Obviously, this has been part of the vocabulary and part of the reports, and most recently has gotten more national progress. But I don't want to tell about that. I'm going to let you do that. So what does Earth Overshoot Day mean to you and the work that you do?
It is a very special day, as I said, and that is because globally speaking, yes, today is the date where we are overshooting the use of renewable resources. But we, people in Japan, have already passed that overshoot day back in May. That was a 10th. So it's like 3 months earlier. What does that tell us? What does that tell Japanese people? We are using much faster, much more than the Earth can replenish. And the next question is that really fair for us to use so much faster than the world global average? And then it also means that how much more we need to be doing, as our colleague in China said, we need to be doing it not just now, but we need to be doing it faster and higher so that we actually move the date.
That's extraordinary. So I know you guys have all sorts of initiatives right now, but could you identify one that you're really excited about to move the date?
Right. There's one really exciting big movement happening in Japan, and it's called the Japan Climate Initiative. Now, everyone who had a chance to look at the ecological footprint knows that a carbon footprint is the single biggest, fastest growing footprint across the globe. Japan is one of the largest countries that emits carbon dioxide. But so that it really means that we need to be playing a bigger role, and more than 100 companies, local governments, research institutes, consumer groups, NGOs got together to launch this Japan Climate Initiative last month. What this big group is trying to do, and I hope it will be happening in the coming 6 months' time, 12 months' time, is to really have a snowball effect of gathering even bigger number of leading companies who has a vision to achieve the Paris Agreement, which is really to move towards a zero carbon society as fast as possible through innovations and all sorts of shared knowledge within Japan and hopefully across these network of non-state actors. So that what this group is trying to do is, one thing is to have a dialogue with the Japanese government so that Japanese government sets its climate target much, much higher so that we move towards the zero carbon society much faster.
That's fantastic. I think it's really powerful to see how companies and governments and NGOs are all working together there to achieve the same dream. And I think that's the way that we can see acceleration.
Right.
So,
Yep.
definitely. So my last question then for you is there an issue or a challenge that you would most like to see movement on, something that you would like to see addressed 1 year from now? What would that be?
Right. Yeah. Carbon footprint is one of the biggest ones, but I think we need to be mindful that there are other critical footprint that goes beyond the Earth's limit. And to us, it is the deforestation, loss of forest. And one of the major drivers for this disappearing forest is the production of natural rubber. And globally speaking, 70%, 80% of those natural rubber is being used to produce essential device in our society here in Japan, but global, which is tires. Without tires, there's no mobility in society, so we need it. But we need to stop deforestation. So leading car companies, as well as leading tire companies, are talking to each other how we can stop and reverse this trend of losing forest. Now, they are trying to form this a platform of a best practice, a implementation platform, so that they will be devising ways to reduce deforestation. They will be reaching out to smallholders who needed to cut forest beforehand, but with the technical help, maybe they will be producing more natural rubber without touching virgin forest, without expanding horizontally the plantations, so that natural rubber goes hand in hand with the reduction in forest footprint.
That's such an interesting synergy of different parts of the sustainability movement, bringing together car manufacturers and tire manufacturers and those who are trying to protect our forests, and seeing where you can find those synergies. Tawai, it is such a pleasure speaking with you, and we are so glad you are partners to help us move the date.
Move the date.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next guest, as we continue our globe-trotting journey, is actually all the way in Scotland. Ah, there we are. Our next guest is a very, very dear friend of Global Footprint Network. Terry Ahern is currently the Chief Executive Officer at the Scottish Environmental Protection Agency, SEPA. But our relationship goes back many, many years when he first discovered ecological footprint methodology as the acting CEO at Environmental Protection Authority in Victoria, as I understand. He's brought the ecological footprint to Scotland and has made it a cornerstone of SEPA's work on sustainable development. Terry, I am so delighted to welcome you to the show.
Hi, nice to be here.
Very good. So as a I guess I wouldn't say a fan, but as a promoter, as a champion of sustainability, you've been familiar with our work for some time now. What does Earth Overshoot Day mean to you and to the work you do now?
Well, I work for Scotland's environmental regulator, the Scottish Environmental Protection Agency, or SEPA, and this is the third EPA I've worked for. So most EPA countries around the world have an EPA or an environmental regulator called something else. And what I would say is in phase one of our work, what we've focused on is the side effects of our economy. So pollution from factories that go into rivers or airsheds. And that was the right thing to do in that first phase, last 2 or 3 decades. What Earth Overshoot Day shows everyone working in an EPA is that in the next phase, we have to do that and we have to do more. We have to lift our game because just reducing the side effects isn't enough anymore. Earth Overshoot Day shows, for example, here in Scotland, we have a great track record of improving water quality in our rivers and lochs. Now, if we keep doing that and we meet all the European standards over the next few years, but we have 2, 3, 4 degrees warming, the damage to those water bodies will be severe anyway. So we have to keep doing the pollution control work. And Earth Overshoot Day shows
think our connection got a little spotty. Can you repeat that last sentence?
We have to help people.
Uh-oh, looks like...
I was saying, in what we need to...
There we go.
Wait, are we back?
Yeah, we're good now.
Okay. What I was saying was we need to improve our take on the planet and everything we do. So an EPA has to help people not just reduce pollution, but tackle overuse of natural resources.
I think that holistic approach is so important and something that we're seeing increasingly as we think about the world in a systemic way. So I know there are a lot of interesting initiatives that SEPA is undertaking at the moment. Is there one or two that you are most excited about? What's something exciting for you in terms of moving the date?
Well, there's lots we're doing, and nearly everything we're doing is in partnership with others, because Earth Overshoot Day shows us that the challenges are so big, no longer can one organisation do initiative X on its own or initiative Y on its own. We have to partner with lots of people. So one thing we're doing here at SEPA is partnering with the Scottish Land Commission, which is another Scottish government agency, and looking at all the vacant and derelict land across Scotland, some of which is badly contaminated. And instead of trying to just wait as an environmental regulator for developers to put proposals forward or local governments to put proposals forward, we're going out and saying, here's all this land, let's use it for something. Now, it might be housing, it might be commercial development, it might be a nature reserve, it might be a local park, but there's this land there. Let's not wait for others to work out what to do. Let's get in as a regulator, get our hands dirty, work with people in Scotland to say, let's put this asset to use for Scotland. Now, an important thing about this is a lot of that land is in the middle of towns and cities. So if it's redeveloped, for example, for housing, you're reducing ecological footprint because you're actually using less energy, fuel, you've got the infrastructure there rather than building on the outskirts of towns and cities. So there's a lot of advantages to this initiative, and it shows the sort of things that EPAs can do if they partner with other government bodies, private sector people, local communities to say, collectively, it's our land, let's roll up our sleeves and work out what to do with it.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more on that point regarding partnerships. There is nothing as powerful as getting these different groups together, and it's something that's been really important for us at Global Footprint Network. Our Earth Overshoot Day partners are absolutely key in being able to spread this message and galvanize the movement behind Move the Date. So my last question then, for you is, 1 year from now, when we are again at Earth Overshoot Day, hopefully we'll be moved back the other way. At that point, what is a challenge or an issue that you would like to see addressed?
Well, you might expect someone running an environment protection agency to pick a particular thing like more solar power, or we've reduced the number of cars on the road, etc. But I'd actually say the main thing I'd love to see that would make me most excited would be a change in what happens up here for 7 billion people. So I did a TEDx talk last year called The Mindset for a New Prosperity. And that really was informed by the ecological footprint work and why in Scotland we've defined our strategy as One Planet Prosperity. Because if everyone in the world thought we can prosper, we can have great lives within what one planet can support, we'd do it. So we had the ingenuity to create Earth Overshoot Day. We've created all the things in the way of life that means we've used up the planet today. And Scotland, of course, has a great tradition. I'm here as an immigrant of inventing things. It was in Edinburgh, where I live, is one of the centres of the Enlightenment, Industrial Revolution. There were a number of things created here, advances in medicine. So Scotland's always punched above its weight and made its contribution, as all countries have. So how can we turn that ingenuity to saying we can live great lives, we can have the sort of social and economic prosperity we want, but within what one planet can provide. So if we all change our minds and say we can do it, we will do it. And I'd love to see more people saying this is straightforward. As your leader, Mathis, always says, the most basic scientific fact is there is only one planet. It's not a choice. We have to live within what it can provide.
That's exactly right. And I love that, because I think you're so right. We sometimes drill down to like, oh, making this or that, hitting these smaller targets, but really it's that big picture and how we can all work together to make a difference. I love your optimism. Thank you so much, Terry. And thank you so much for being a champion and a partner to move the date. Uh-oh. Looks like he got stuck. Well, I'm sure he was going to say move the date too. Fantastic. So our next guest is joining us from our next guest is joining us from Italy, I believe. So speaking of fantastic partners, one of our fantastic partners for Earth Overshoot Day over the last 2 years has been, are you there? Uh-oh. Looks like it's glitching a little bit. Oh, we're still good. Excellent. So as we were saying, our partners are so key, and over the last 2 years, we have had the great pleasure of partnering with the Barilla Center for Food and Nutrition Foundation. As lovers of science and data themselves, BCFN is an obvious fit for us when it comes to joining efforts in our promotion of Earth Overshoot Day. And I've actually had the pleasure of working closely with our next guest, the lovely Valentina Gasbarri. Valentina is the Communication and External Relations Manager at the BCFN Foundation, where she uses the power of communication to strengthen and advance the Sustainable Development Goals and rural development issues. Valentina, thank you so much for joining us.
And thanks for inviting us, and it's great to be here with you.
Excellent. So, Valentina, as an Earth Overshoot Day partner, I know of the ways that you've worked with us specifically, and we can get to that in a minute. But what does Earth Overshoot Day mean for you and for the foundation?
So since its establishment, the Barilla Center for Food and Nutrition Foundation has been analyzing the complexity of the relation between people, food, and the planet. So we currently focus our work on sustainable agri-food systems in an holistic manner and through a variety of initiatives, trying to foster a concrete change, a transformative change towards healthier and more sustainable lifestyles in the logic, in the framework of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So the BCFN Foundation has identified key food paradoxes strictly linked with the limited resources that we have on our planet. So we are literally eating our planet resources, diminishing, nourishing, and we need to nourish the planet. So we are witnessing an increasing number of people who are still going to bed hungry, so for every 2 people starving, there are 5 people obese or overweight. Less than half of the total grain production in the world is used for feeding animals or cars instead of feeding the hungry. And then thirdly, we are witnessing an increasing 1/3 of the food production is lost or waste. So we were trying during all the years of the foundation to analyze and link up to trying to find concrete solutions, because what we saw from our recent research is that the food demands makes up 26% of the global ecological footprint. So it's something that we need to understand, to raise awareness, to inform, and to make people more conscious on the way they eat, which is strictly related with the health and and how the planet is currently now.
It's fantastic linking all of these things together, because I think it's something, food in particular, is something people really connect with and understand. So among all of the many initiatives that the foundation has, what's something that you're really excited about to move the date?
Yeah, we strongly believe that the way we eat is fundamental as an agent, as a vehicle of change towards sustainability. So this is why we have developed the model of the double food and environmental pyramid. Which is a research, main BCFN research focusing on both on the food pyramid and the environmental impact of the food that we are eating. So the double food and environmental pyramid highlights these extremely close links between the two aspects of the food. So one is the nutritional value of the food and the impact on the other side that the food has, so from the production to the consumption, to the environment, to the planet. So this is why we, the evidence that we can break up is that the food, which is good for the human health, is also good for the planet. And if
that double pyramid, I think it's fantastic. It's a great visualization. And in fact, we have collaborated on a couple of new visualizations this year. So there's a fantastic infographic that we produced jointly with BCFN, and actually a video that you can also check out. Both of those are available on overshootday.org and on, I believe, on your website as well, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, of course, it's www.barilacfn.com.
Excellent. So my last question for you before we have to move on is, if there was one thing or a key issue that you would like to see a movement with over the next year, what would it be?
Yeah, from our perspective, if everyone in the world would consume the world average calories and reduce the footprint intensity of their diets and cut half of the food waste, we would move the date actually of the overshoot day for the next year. So we strongly believe that everyone has a voice, everyone has a role to play. So we strongly believe in the partnering with different stakeholders, different actors to be a vehicle of change towards concrete sustainability, environment and planet at the same time. So we are continuing to keep momentum and to raise awareness and to inform people on the issues related to food and the planet in the framework of the Paris Agreement, the UN global goals, and the international agenda.
Fantastic. You guys are amazing partners. It's been such a pleasure working with you. Thanks for being here. Okay, oh, pull it up. There we go.
So let's move the date.
Let's move the date.
Thanks a lot.
Our next guest is actually in Berlin, where Earth Overshoot Day is already heating up. At the Brandenburg Gate, quite a historical landmark, 5 German organizations are currently setting up for their annual Earth Overshoot Day street performance. The network includes Inkota, German Watch, Verbindung, Bunjunde, which I'm going to ask you to repeat for me, Christina, and Naju. And it is my pleasure to welcome Christina Utz, a member of Verbindung Collective, to tell us all about the performance. Welcome, Christina. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having us. You wanted me to repeat the network of people, so it's Naye encoded, but you said it actually all very well, Verbindung. It's all very well done in German.
Oh, you're too kind.
Yeah, good morning. So
it looks fantastic and sunny out there. So what do you all have planned today? I know that this is
very sunny.
Yeah, I know this is a collective. You're all working together.
Yes, I'm part of a collective. We're based in Berlin. I'm sorry, this paper is flying away. We do educational work around capitalism and degrowth. So our focus is how does the economy work? And it's not like an abstract thing out there, but rather to understand it and understand that we're part of it and that we're shaping it every day by the way we consume and by the way we produce things. And so we're offering and developing materials on these matters, and we're also giving workshops and facilitating talks, things like this. But also our main focus is on solidarity economy. So how can we actually do things differently? And for us, Earth Overshoot Day is a reminder that we're still using much too many resources. And for us especially, it's a reminder that it's coupled to growth, to economic growth, and that it's impossible to decouple it. So today we're here at Brandenburger Gate. It's a famous place in Berlin, and we're trying with these networks of people that you see in the background to raise awareness on the Earth Overshoot Day and on these matters. And later on, we will, not sure if you can see it well, we will squeeze these oranges, just like we're squeezing the world and the resources out of the planet in order to raise awareness.
That is fantastic. Can you show me that again? Do you actually have an orange that is painted like the planet? That is,
we do.
So brilliant. I love it. And I love it. It's a little hard to see at the same, but there's an amazing visual behind you with the squeezing of the orange planet. Oh, that looks fantastic.
Yeah, so that's what we're gonna do here, to mainly call out to politicians, but of course it's also a private thing. Everyone can take part in, but mainly the political infrastructure and circumstances that we're calling out to.
Excellent. So I understand that this collective comes together for this Earth Overshoot Day action. But what's one kind of initiative that you're excited about to move the date?
So we're excited about everything because there's so many matters. And what we're focusing on is really this educational work in order to make people understand capitalism and how it works and how economic growth is coupled with the use of resources that we're having. And then we're also trying to somehow promote, especially the alternatives that are here in Berlin. So that can be community-supported agriculture, but it's also something like collectives that we're closely linked to. We ourselves are a collective, so that means that we share the responsibility and the decisions that we do, unlike in most, corporate, I'm missing the word. Basically, most corporations are non-democratic institutions, or they're missing that link. So we're really excited about collectives, cooperatives. We're strongly promoting this because we believe that if we have an equal share in things, then we'll decide differently. We rather decide in favor of our needs and what we need, and instead of,
So there's actually an old Global Footprint Network annual report that the tagline is what happens when an infinite growth economy meets a finite planet. And I think that sort of gets to those very same issues. So my last question for you is, obviously you're working hard on raising awareness, but if there was something that some issue or challenge that you would like to see move a year from now, what would that be?
There are so many. I think a great way is to just think things through. If you think, for example, the cost of coal or the true cost of coal through, then you most likely arrive at the conclusion that it doesn't really make sense to exploit it, but rather leave it in the ground and switch to renewable energies. Or if you think other things through, you rather arrive to the conclusion that every human being is possibly worth the same, and that we need other migratory politics, and then there's these things that seem small but that actually make up a large amount of also our footprint. For example, if you ban cars from the city, or how much nicer would everything be? I mean, you don't see really cars in the background now, but Berlin is full of it, even though it's just 30% of the people that own a car. So why don't we just ban these and make nice things out there? Or why don't we transform the agro-industry to something like community-supported agriculture network that we are all part of? Or why don't we have poems everywhere instead of advertising? So I don't know, I think the most urgent thing is probably the coal. At the moment in Germany, actually right now, there's 700 people protesting in a camp not so far away from Berlin. It's a global movement, and it's something that I'm really excited about, that people become active against coal, because it's a major challenge.
Well, we're very excited for the work that you're doing, and we're excited that you are partners with us on moving the date. So thank you so much. And so thank you so much for being out there and making a splash on that beautiful sunny day. So let's all get together to move the date.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing. What a fantastic event. I love that orange. It's fantastic. So our next guest is joining us actually from Slovenia. My great grandmother was from Slovenia, so I think I get to claim some sort of knowing. However, Jurni Stritic is a director of sustainable development consulting and has been key in many of the transformative movements for the Slovenian government of climate and Office of Climate Change. He is an engineer, he's an expert in international environmental and sustainability policies, and he brings over 25 years of experience in the work that he's done in climate negotiations through the decades. It is my great pleasure to welcome you. Jurni, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's a great honor and pleasure to join you today.
What a beautiful scenery behind you. Is that?
That's the mountains of Slovenia, rendered by an artist.
Lovely, lovely. So you have had a very exciting, or a long and storied career in this space. And I understand from our colleague David Lynn's recent visit to Slovenia on a project we're working on together, that there is an incredible love of the environment in Slovenia. What are you excited about in terms of, I've been saying this too many times, I think. What does Earth Overshoot Day mean to you and the work that you do?
Well, generally speaking, it's a great reminder that we live on borrowed resources from our grandchildren and children, and that we need to do something so that they can take advantage of this. But more specifically, I think using the global footprint as an indicator of sustainability, it's a good way for linking together different aspects of sustainability. And that's why the Slovenian government has started using this as one of the indicators of success of our development strategy until 2030. And it enables us to do two things. One is to set priorities within the countries to figure out what are the main resource issues or environmental issues we need to deal with. And it also deals with environmental justice. It basically assigns the responsibility for the use of resources for those who are the consumers. So when basically notices about the overshoot day were published recently, these days in the media in Slovenia, although we consider ourselves quite sustainable, everybody was a bit shocked that we are so much in the overdraft. And globally, it's 1st of August. In Slovenia, it was May 12th. So that comes as a shock to many Slovenians. And I think it's a good way to reflect on where we are and what we want to do in the future.
From what I understand, Slovenia has a really integrated approach to sustainability, which I think is so important as we think of these as systems. It's not solely energy or anything else, but the connection to who we are as in terms of environmental justice, in terms of social justice. That's all part of the same systems. So in all of the work that's going on and the work that you're involved in, what's an exciting initiative that you're kind of into towards moving the date?
Well, I would point out what we are doing at the present together with our ministry, or a couple of ministries, and that's trying to look at what's happening to the forests of Slovenia. Slovenia is very proud of our forests. They are quite natural. There's a lot of them. We have all the wild animals of Central Europe living in them. They are a great resource for recreation and tourism in the recent years, and they are a great source of income for the owners in terms of wood products. And until basically these last couple of years, somehow all the foresters assumed that forests will just go on growing as they grow all the time. But since 2014, with a couple of severe weather events in Slovenia, we see that we really have to start thinking hard about preserving the forests and their biocapacity, which is an important part of the global footprint, to preserve their biocapacity in view of the climate change and the impacts, negative impacts of the climate change. So I don't think we can take nature for granted. We need to work with it, and we need to find a way to make sure that these natural resources or the fertile land of the world is really functioning, and that the biodiversity and the productivity of the land is maintained.
Absolutely, absolutely. So our final question then, if there was a challenge or issue that you would like to see addressed in the next year, what would that be?
Well, I often say that, I mean, I come from a country that saw 3 wars in the 20th century in the center of Europe. And some people say environment can be a threat to peace, but I also say that environment and sustainability is also an opportunity to improve the peace in the world. I mean, if we all collaborate together on things like Paris Climate Accord or other global conventions, I think there are good opportunities for moving the whole humanity forward and improving the security. If we start fighting over resources, then we will be quite in deep trouble. So I hope that we will see more collaboration between the global leaders and between the people on the ground on improving the sustainability.
I think that's a beautiful vision. Thank you so much for being a partner. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for
thank you for having me.
Thanks for
Let's move the date together.
Let's move the date. Thank you so much, Yuri.
See you. Thank you. See you.
So our next guest is joining us from Russia. WWF Russia has been a great partner of ours over the last few years, including major reports that we've done with them, measuring ecological footprint and biocapacity for federal subject, or all the federal subjects. So for the 4th year in a row now, they've been leading a remarkable and effective guerrilla marketing campaign in Moscow for Earth Overshoot Day. So to tell us more about that and the other work that's being done by the Conservation Policy Unit at WWF Russia, we are joined by our dear friend, Pavel Boev. Hi, Pavel.
Hello, Laurel, great to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks so much for joining us despite your very busy schedule.
Thank you.
And look at you, you matched the pandas. You look fantastic.
Oh, thanks. I've been trying to.
Excellent, excellent. So Pavel, you are so active in this space and you've done such amazing work. What does Earth Overshoot Day mean to you and the work that you're doing?
Well, we at WWF Russia have been celebrating, or rather marking, Earth Overshoot Day for 4 years now, as you said. We believe it is very important to make a connection between the planetary narrative and our everyday lives. When and if we can demonstrate this connection in a clear way, we can actually hope to achieve a real behavioral change and build a future in which humans will be able to thrive in harmony with nature. And Earth Overshoot Day provides a great opportunity to reach out to a very wide audience and explain to them how actually our everyday consumer choices can have an impact on the whole planet.
Definitely, definitely. And I know that you have several interesting ways of helping get that message out. What's the latest? What's the latest exciting Earth Overshoot Day initiative?
Well, we do have a lot, as you said, but this year we'll be again doing our, I like it the most actually, our Build from the Earth campaign. And today in supermarkets, shops and restaurants around Moscow, people will be given a symbolic bill from the earth in addition to their regular receipts and checks, showing that by the 1st of August, we have used up the entire bioresources the planet can replenish within a year. 100% of oceans, 100% of forests, 100% of grasslands, 100% of croplands, etc. So the idea is to demonstrate to the ordinary people that even our biological resources, even though they are renewable, they are not limitless.
I think that is so clever and so creative. It's I want to build from the planet. So last question for you then, Pavel. With everything going on, if there was an issue or challenge that you could choose that you would like to see addressed in the next year, what would that be?
Well, yeah, there are a lot of challenges, naturally. But for me, the main challenge is actually our ability to scale up. WWF has over 5 million supporters globally. But as you know, there are 7.5 billion people around the globe. So if only a few succeed with their move the date efforts and most fail, it will mean that we will all fail. So the main challenge is actually to make as many people around the globe to take a pledge and to commit to actually move the date.
Amazing, amazing. Well, you are certainly doing more than your fair share. I will say that. So thank you so much. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. And
absolutely the same. Thank you, Laurel. And move the date.
Let's move the date.
Goodbye.
So on our next and final stop on this global tour, we are traveling to Porto, Portugal. Currently, we are working on a project there with the Portuguese NGO Zero. And it's a very exciting project with the University of Aveiro, where we are calculating footprints of 6 cities. But I don't want to tell you too much more because I'm going to leave that to our guest. So it is my pleasure to introduce the project coordinator from Zero. It's Paulo Magalhães. He's also a researcher at the Faculty of Law at the University of Porto. Welcome to the show, Paulo. Oh, it looks like your mic's off, so we're going to unmute you.
Sorry. Yes, it's working now.
Hello.
How are you?
Thanks for joining us.
Yes, yes.
How's your overshoot day going right now?
You are hearing me? Yes, it's working. The sound.
It's good.
Okay, okay. So here we are trying to calculate the footprint of 6 cities and to start a process that wants to engage the behavior of these cities in the national accountancy. We are trying to understand which is the biocapacity of some regions and the footprint at the same time to compare these results with the national average in biocapacity and the footprint, and to build a system of accountancy where these behaviors, these results have a symbolic, not a symbolic, but a result in the distribution of the money inside the country. So this is the project that we want to introduce the ecological results in the accountancy of a country and to have more equity and more justice inside the country, and as the first scale for a different global accountancy between countries also. But this is a first scale. Of course.
I think this is such an exciting pilot and such a cool concept to be using natural resource accounting in the way that you're distributing funds among these municipalities. So if there were, what is Earth, I mean, obviously this is an exciting initiative to move the date, but what does Earth Overshoot Day mean to you and to this coalition?
This is all the living beings, all the ecological systems, all life must have an accountancy. I think the only place where there is one accountancy is the humankind in a global scale. In our houses, we know the resources we have. We must make our home economy to live in a sustainable way. In our houses, in our own life, in our enterprises, in our schools, everywhere you have a system of accountancy where you know the resource and we must do not spend more than the resource you have. The only scale where this not works is really on a global scale. And we need to organize ourselves as a global community that is humankind to organize itself to live in this planet in an organized way with accountancy between people and between humanity and the planet that support where we live, our home, our common home. So for me, the overshoot day is the day that is the proof that we haven't this type of accountancy. We are living not outside the rules of nature. You understand? Because all the social systems, all the natural system have one accountancy. Only us in our home, in a global scale, we don't have.
That's right. That's right. Everybody needs a budget. So my last question for you then, and actually as our last guest, will be some parting words. But what if you had one thing that you wanted to see accomplished in the next year? What would that be?
For me, is to start to incorporate these global biogeophysical cycles in our economy and to start to connect our economy, our social organization with the rules of nature. This is something that doesn't work together in this time. To connect this and to integrate this is the great challenge we have in the next years. So for me, is to start to follow the rules of nature in our lives because we don't live outside this planet.
That's very true.
Yes,
it's amazing that we have to tell people that we only have one planet.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure working with you, and it's going to be so exciting to see what comes out of this project.
Okay, it was a pleasure for me also. Thank you so much.
Looking forward to moving the date with you.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Okay, move the date.
Great. And now I'm here with my last guest, the glorious, the wonderful Matis Wagner. And we are so glad that you were able to join us, all of you out there, to join us here on our first ever Earth Overshoot Day, Move the Day global live show.
From Oakland.
From Oakland, California.
Around the world. And this was only the first half. There will be a whole other show.
Oh, yeah.
We'll sleep just a little bit, very little, and then we'll have the other show with another set of amazing guests.
We have a phenomenal lineup, and it's been amazing to speak with all these incredible folks and hear about the incredible work that's being done. But as you can see from all of this, the theme of the partnerships and the collaboration runs throughout. So thank you for being part of this. Thank you for being partners. And thanks for joining us in our effort to move the date.
Thank you, amazing partners. Thank you, amazing partners. Has been great, will be great.
All right, I think that's a wrap.
That's it.
High five.
Woo!